sometimes, and even just the chance to be able to get out of bed and come here and be with you and with all these good people today. For all of that, we give thanks. We pray you'll open our hearts, challenge us with a sense of renewal and boldness and life in our own personal lives and the life of your community of faith as we seek to follow you at all times. Speak to us through your word, through your music, through all that we do and see and participate in this day and every day in our relationship with you. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, I have to admit, I was kind of thinking late last night, this was really a dumb title for the day after the turkey dinner. Because the title's Keeping Busy. And in some ways it was like when the alarm went off this morning, I'm not usually one of those who hits the snooze button too many times kind of thing, but it was like, you know, I just wanted to, can't we just have 10 more minutes kind of thing? Can't we just stay here? Oh, it's foggy out. Nobody will be at church today. Yeah, they won't notice if I don't show. But sometimes you just feel that way. You feel overwhelmed. You feel like things are just, you know, so busy, so draining. And that's a part of the life we live nowadays, unfortunately. I was talking with someone in the first service, and we were talking about things, you know, like the 24-hour grocery stores. And just how, you know, it seems like just about everything is open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I was reading the other day that some of the major chains were now going to say, okay, Thanksgiving Day, sorry, you got to come to work, even in the afternoon. I mean, we know there are some people who have to work on holidays and things like that. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But sometimes you just want to say, okay, I've had enough. Then you go to church and you see a sermon titled, Keeping Busy. Well, let me tell you a couple things about that. First, I want to say right up front, this section in Thessalonians is not meant to be used to beat up on people. And sometimes it has been. Because we have to remember the context of what Paul is talking about and why he's talking this way. This is not meant to be one of those things that someone shows up at the soup kitchen, someone shows up at the food bank, and you say, well, it says right here, if you're not doing this, you don't get that. That's not what was going on Paul's day. Paul, when he writes this, he is writing this in the context of a church and a community of faith that was living in the expectation that Jesus was going to come any minute. And that raised the need for readiness, Paul thought. That raised the level of excitement. That meant, Paul thought, that everybody had to be actively participating and working and doing constantly, because at any moment, Jesus would come, and we had to be ready, we had to be working, we had to be doing. And so when Paul writes this, he's trying to say to this early community of faith, look, time is short. We don't have time to take a break. We have to keep going. We have to be working. We have to be telling the story. We have to be doing all the kinds of things that the early community of faith was trying to do to get the word out. And so Paul says some pretty strong words in that context. It's not meant to be about, you know, if you don't work, you don't eat, you're a bum and all that. Please don't ever look at it and use it that way, because that's not what he's doing. It's not what he's talking about. But there's a little bit later on in that text where he gets to the point, the idea of, you know, you need something to keep you going. And he talks about that idea of faith and peace and grace and all that, being that thing that kind of keeps you going. And he celebrates, and in the midst of the busyness and in the midst of the work, God is still there seeing us through it all. Well, sometimes, I don't know about you, in my efforts to keep busy, my tank runs dry. Sometimes in my efforts to get it all done, I reach a place and I reach a point where it's just like, can I answer one more phone call? Can I write one more letter? Can I go to one more meeting? You know, do I have the energy to go home and actually be there as a husband, as a father? Do I have it in me to, you know, go and have lunch with a friend who is in crisis and who wants to talk? Can I listen to another story over the phone of someone calling and saying, I need help? Sometimes we just reach a place in the midst of our busyness, in the midst of all that is laid upon us and all that is expected of us, and it's just like, you know, the tank's running on empty. We're just drained dry, and it's like, well, what do we do? And some people might feel a little bit of that today. I mean, it was a great weekend. A lot happened. A lot of great work was done. But sometimes you come in the next day and it's like, you know, okay, I need a break. I and then we hear we're supposed to keep busy. Well, the only way you can keep busy is if your tank is full. The only way you can do the work of God is if you understand that God is going to be the one who's going to work through you and is there to make it possible for that to occur. So let me offer a couple things to you today that I think depart out of this text and others that give us some idea of what we can put back into ourselves to help us keep our tank full, so that we can do as Paul encourages us to do, be busy for the kingdom of God. The first is simply this. And none of these are things that you haven't heard before. But sometimes it's said in the repetition over and over and over again. I know at least for me, sometimes I think it takes 47 times for me to hear something before I finally will admit, okay, yeah, that's the thing. The peaceful presence of God. The peaceful presence of God. Sometimes I find when I'm at my busiest, when I feel the most strained, it's because I realize I haven't connected with God. I haven't carved out the time. I haven't carved out the space. I haven't, put God in my date book. I mean, you go to see a nutritionist or your doctor and, they're getting on you about your weight and things like that, and they start talking about that dreaded word exercise. What do they tell you nowadays? Well, if you're good, exercise is good for you. It'll help you be healthy. Go home and get your calendar and put it in your date book. At 9 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, whatever, I'm going to go walking. Put it right in there. Well, sometimes if you stop and look at your week in review, you realize that all the stuff that was on your calendar, very little of it left space for God, let alone exercise, eating healthy, and all the rest of the things you're supposed to do. Keep yourself physically fit, strong, and healthy, and mentally aware, and all those kinds of things that we need to do. Well, finding a place with the peaceful presence of God needs to be one of the number one things that we, as people of faith, do. We have to find a way to put space in our lives that allows us to reconnect. And I know it seems not to make sense. We think that one-on-one is always just two, but I'm telling you, sometimes one-on-one really comes out to 4 or 5 when you're talking about the peaceful presence of God. I really believe that for every, half hour, every hour that I allow in my life to encounter God in that peaceful presence, it's not simple addition, it's multiplication. It makes that kind of difference in our lives. John Wesley, the great old man of the church, used to write, he had an extra busy day, he'd just get up all the more earlier. And not so that he could start on his agenda list, but so that he could spend more time in prayer. Why? Because he understood if he was going to live a busy life for God, if he was going to be able to do all the things that were asked of him, the first and foremost place he had to start was in finding a place to meet God in that sense of peaceful presence. Now, it looks different for all of us. I mean, there are some people that in order to connect with God, they take a break, they go out and walk in the woods. They go to the highest mountaintop. I've even had a couple friends say occasionally they'll jump out of a plane with a parachute, and they're like really connecting with God. I probably would be too in that same case, but probably for a different reason. But my wife, she loves to go where there's water. There's just something for her in water. There's just something about that. She can sit and look at the waves and watch it, and it's just like, honey, are you still with us? Because she just gets lost in it. And for her, it's a way of connecting with the awesomeness and presence of God. Whatever it is, there has to be something in your life where you take that time, when you make that space, when you say, this is a time for me and God. Because if you're running on empty and your tank is full, that's got to be the first thing that you do, is find a place in your life for God. And I'm not talking about the activities, okay? We do lots of wonderful things. We have lots of committees. We have all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's all necessary and all important. It's what keeps the unity of faith active and vital and strong. But there also has to be a place in our individual lives where we're saying, this is my time. This is my spot. This is my space. This is the moment where it's me and God just coming together in prayer, being with one another, unburdening ourselves, saying, God, here I am. Now, I will say to you, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Sometimes it's incredibly difficult to incorporate in our lives. A number of years ago, I had a chance to do a 2-year spiritual academy. And every quarter, we would go out to this place in Iowa. And it was the Cincinnati Sisters Dominican, I forget the whole name, retreat center. And when the first week you're there, you find out you're going to spend lots of time in silence throughout the day. And I thought, this was just driving me nuts. And the first week was really hard. By the time the 2 years experience was coming to the end, one of my biggest griefs was I wouldn't have that week to kind of like be able to go away and have the opportunity to just spend hours in silence. Because it became a time of being able to connect with the awesome presence of God. If you're running empty, if you're feeling drained, first and foremost, find a place in your life you can reconnect with the peaceful presence of the Almighty. Now the second one is a no-brainer too. It's kind of traditional church stuff. You have to find a way in your life that you reconnect with God's Word. I have said this until I am blue in my face, and I will say it until the day I die, and probably in the hereafter as well. Church on Sunday morning is not enough. Hearing a 20-minute sermon, a 30-minute sermon, even if it's an hour and a half milligram special, it's not enough. There has to be a way that as an individual believer, you reconnect with God's Word. Now, I'm not so worried, especially at first, how you get started or what you do. Whether it's sitting in the throne room of your house with 17 little daily breads or other, devotional type things, and that's the only place you can find 20 minutes to start and sit and read. Just do it. There is something about delving into God's Word that makes a difference in our lives. And what we do here is not enough. The once-in-a-while Bible study is not enough. You have to find a way to incorporate it in a form, in a fashion that works for you. What may work for me may not work for you. The translation that I read may not be the best translation for you. Find some, I don't care what it is. Whether it's electronic, whether it's a 21st century language, or whether you really like these and thous and you'll never give them up. But something you can read, a manner and form that works to incorporate it into your lives. Because one of the things you're going to find as you look into it is that in Scripture you find people that really aren't all that different than you. They have the same struggles, the same hopes, the same desires. There are people in the Bible that had trouble in their marriages. There are people in the Bible who had children that were like a little wayward. There are people in the Bible who complained about the political system, who complained about the economy. There are people in the Bible who try to struggle with, well, what do I do now because I have nothing? There are people in the Bible who were facing health crisis. There are people in the Bible who were struggling with stress. It's there. And part of what we have in those wonderful scriptures are some thoughts and some ideas of a way through. And sometimes just being able to read and know that I'm not alone. That even people of faith, people that we lift up as examples of our faith, had those same times in their life where they were hurting, where they were uncertain, where they were in need. It makes a difference. So find some way to connect with the peaceful presence of God, and find some way, secondly, begin to incorporate God's Word into your life. No matter how small a start it may be at the beginning, find something today. Now the last thing, I wouldn't be a good United Methodist pastor if at some point I didn't utter the word grace. So really, grace is kind of the overarching idea here. Sometimes we might say, okay, no matter how hard I try, I can't find a peaceful presence. I can't find a place. I just can't do it. No matter how hard I try, I can't seem to incorporate God's Word into my life on a daily basis or even a weekly or monthly basis. Well, there we have to lean into and rely on God's grace. And what I mean by that is just trust and have faith that if you open your heart and your spirit to God and say, God, I'm trying. I'm struggling. My tank is on empty and then some. And I can't quite find my peaceful place. I can't really get started on this God's Word thing. What do I do? In that moment, rely on God's grace. Trust that God is still God and God is still there for you. And God can and will lift you up. Sometimes all we have to do is cry out and say, God, here I am. Here I am. Because God is ready to respond. And I really believe in God's gracious ability to bless us. that God will place someone or something in your life that will begin to refill you, begin to make it possible for you to connect to His peaceful presence, to find a way into His Word, and to experience anew His grace. Because see, the bonus of all of that is then you're able to live out the title of the sermon, keep Him busy. When your tank's full, the supernatural blessings that God can bring, when your tank is full with powerful, peaceful presence that God can offer, when your tank's full with God's holy word, when your tank is full with God's gracious love, then it becomes possible for the people of faith to do all the things that God asks of us. And rather than it being a sense of drudgery, rather than feeling like, oh no, it's one more activity, it's one more event, it's one more, I have to do this because I signed on the dotted line when they asked. It can become a sense of joy, it can become a sense of hope, and it can become something that will enable us to make a difference in the world around us because we've reconnected with God, we've allowed Him to fill us up. Our tank is no longer empty, and we can be busy in a positive and affirming way in the world around us. Thanks be to God.